What is the word? It is Lord Third, your number one trash player, aka the garbage goat, aka Jackie Spam. I am here with the man, the myth, the legend.
Yep, the Rangers, no better than a stranger, the king of dreams, better with his 9 or 10 rings, depending on how he's feeling today. And we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest hot takes on all things nerdy and culture. And one of the hottest things in nerdy culture today.
I mean, hotter than the fires of hell, wouldn't you say?
I would say, especially after that last season.
I'm sweating right now.
Castlevania, baby. It dropped this previous week. And wow, we've got a lot to talk about Castlevania. And we've covered, I believe that throughout the history of the show, we've covered
we've covered segments
we've covered almost every season, going back, just like thinking about the somewhat sporadic nature of our previous releases. We covered just about every season of the show, but we want to talk in depth about season 4, primarily because of the overlay of it. As usual, spoiler warning, because we're going to be talking about some plot details and whatnot.
Oh, we're going deep. We're going deep into this one, guys. We're going so deep. You would think you could pull us out of hell yourself by the time we're done with this story.
And
yeah, that's right. Yeah. I went there.
Castlevania definitely went there. Released the initial season was released in 2017. The fourth season, this was the fourth season that came out on Netflix. It is inspired on the video game series of the same name. It uses a lot of the same characters, most of the same characters, and particular for those of you that are familiar with the game, it follows Trevor Belmont of the Belmonts. There are a lot of Belmonts in the Castlevania series. There's you got Richter, you got that other guy, and then you got
that other guy. No names.
Yeah.
People that don't matter. Don't worry about it.
You got Simon. It goes through a long list of Belmonts. But this one follows Trevor Belmont with Sypha Belnatus and the son of Dracula, Alucard, as they have to deal with Dracula and the ramifications of his actions in a dark medieval fantasy. As we've covered the seasons, because of the way that season 4, there's a level of it seems to be finality to season 4. I don't know what the future plans are for the show. We'll talk a little bit more about kind of like what we our major thoughts on season 4, but we actually just want to like do an overall recap of seasons 1, 2, and 3 based off of our thoughts. We're not going to talk about we're not going to go super deep into plot, but we're going to give some overall thoughts on each things that we liked about each season, things that we didn't like. I'll give us a slight summary of each of the 3 seasons, and then we'll cap it off with the 4th season. But essentially, Dracula meets this woman named Lisa. Dracula is a vampire.
He's a what?
And he, I know that comes as a surprise to you guys. Like I said, spoilers.
His name is Dracula.
He falls in love with this woman named Lisa, she admires him for his mind and the level of like scientific knowledge that he has in his castle, where he keeps the dead bodies of trespassers on pikes outside. By the way, she just walks up to his place and is like, "Bro, you just keeping this library to yourself?" They fall in love. They have a kid, and then he goes out to like experience the world because he was a shut-in. But he comes back to find that the church of a nearby city has condemned her of being a witch and has burned her at the stake for
real dick move on the human. Real dick move on the humans. I gotta say, real dick move.
He vows like a year later to, he gives people a year to make their amends or whatever, to make their peace, and then he's come back with a vengeance. And lo and behold, a year later, he comes back and fucks everybody up. You see in the first episode a baby get eaten by a demon. That's how like hardcore this series is. But he comes back, unleashes what are called night creatures. It's upon like these unsuspecting like villages nearby, villages and cities, and they destroy everything that they come in contact with. And then you meet Trevor Belmont, who is a member of the fallen Belmont family. Trevor is a little bit of a slacker, even though his family is known for hunting monsters and slaying vampires and having mystical arts and knowledge. Trevor's kind of a sloth, and essentially he ends up having to find Sypha Belnatus, who is a member of like a group of people known as Seekers. They're basically intellectualists who have deep understanding of magic and science. And he ends up rescuing her after she had been petrified by, I think it was like a basilisk or something like that. He kills it. She joins him in like helping people who are being beset by the night creatures that Dracula unleashed. And then they find Alucard, who is the son of Vlad and Lisa Tepish, under the city in the final season. And that's the basic premise of the final season. Like it's it actually wraps up on a pretty big cliffhanger, because they don't confront Dracula at all in that first season. But yeah, that's the breadth of it. So King, what were your initial thoughts after that first season?
After the first season, or are we talking about including the first season? So,
with after watching the first season, what did you think of the first season?
Oh, I thought it was really engaging. So, I didn't come from a video game background where I knew what Castlevania was, but I never played the game.
Right.
And having jumped into this story, it was really immersive. Dracula comes home, basically comes opening up to seeing his wife being burned alive, and we're immediately brought into the story as far as his war against the city of Wallachia. And we have interesting characters. They go all out with the language and the gore. They really wanted to make a statement about this show ain't for kids, and this ain't your regular video game adaptation. I thought for an introduction into the world, this was nearly perfect. Stakes weren't too high, and I believe, and as much as, because I thought that with the amount of time they had left, I didn't know how they're going to kill Dracula in 1 or 2 episodes left.
Right.
But I'm glad that they ended on a cliffhanger, because this season was supposed to set up the series.
Right. And it should be should be noted too that the first season was 4 episodes.
Yeah, it was very 4 episodes, so it was very short, and it did a lot with that setup, and it accomplished its goals. Introduced the characters, the world, our 3 baddies, as they take the next season to accomplish their goal from season 1. It carries over very nicely and sets everything up very well. I just put it up there with how I felt about watching Avatar: The Last Airbender season 1. Sets the world very nicely with a nice little conflict at the end that really carries on to season 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
thought it was fantastic.
Yeah. So, and I think the thing on top of season 1, I think you get pretty strong. One, the animation is great. Like visually, the seasons are pretty phenomenal. And I think the characterization is actually very good. For each of the characters, you don't really learn a lot about Alucard in that season, but he is one of the core central characters. I think the person that you have the biggest exposure to in the first season is Dracula, and you kind of understand the severity of what he wants to do, and because he not only wants to like destroy the city of Wallachia, who is responsible for killing his wife, but at the end of it, he's just like, I don't care about any of the humans. I want all of them to die. I want all their blood. Let's do this. And so, you pretty quickly get introduced to this bloodthirsty, megalomaniacal Dracula in the first season. And that's the major thing. It's Dracula, no one else. And, and he finds, over the course of the time, you understand how dangerous these night creatures are. And you also see how helpless, like, common folk are against these night creatures. So I think it sets it up
especially
well
untrained.
enough. Yeah, especially untrained. You do, but you also learn just a little bit about how even though Trevor is a bit of a slacker, he at least knows how to fight monsters, how to fight night creatures, and because he ends up pretty handily, not only like taking out night creatures himself, but also instructing people how to take care of themselves against night creatures and things like that. So yeah, I think for season 1 was very solid. Like you said, it definitely like draws you in and makes you want to. It really makes you want to watch and see what is happening next. It was very short, and of course, a lot of people were like, "Why is it so short?" Because it was great
setup.
And so yeah, that actually leads into season 2. Season 2 picks up right where season 1 leaves off, maybe like a day or so later. So you have like the main 3, Trevor, Sypha, and Alucard are all, they all work together. They're all working together to try and stop Dracula. That's the big thing. And you also, in this season, are introduced to other key characters, particularly those who are in one shape or form working with Dracula. You are introduced to what are called Forge Masters, so the people that are actually able to create or summon night creatures. They're named Hector and Isaac. They're both individuals who are previously kind of like in lives where they were basically where they were just dehumanized by other humans. So Isaac is of African descent, and he was a slave in England. Hector was just abused for most of his life.
Tragic backstory for both.
Yeah, and you see why 2 humans would ally themselves with a vampire who wants to eradicate humanity. Because yeah, they treated those 2 like shit.
Like absolute
and
crap.
And you see that. And even some of the
Isaac.
Yeah, especially Isaac. And then you see even like some of the vampires who come in to enact Dracula's plan. You have Carmilla, who is the female vampire. That is like that's her major thing, is that she is the female vampire.
She's not just the female vampire, she is the female vampire that overcame old men.
Yeah, we're not
old men have always taken things from that.
We haven't got there yet, but yeah, she is. That's her entire. That's most of her identity, is that she is the female vampire, and that is mostly true throughout most of the series. So you're introduced to Carmilla. She's really like her, and then like Antov or whatever is the Russian vampire's name. He's kind of forgettable, because he's just kind of like the typical like Russian guy. He's wearing a Shanka hat. He has a thick. Well, he's Slavic. He's not Russian. He's Slavic.
There you go. There's a difference, because it's the same trope.
It's the typical kind of like, he's got the thick Slavic accent. I think
I'm true vampire.
I think he mentions.
Kill and drink blood.
I think he mentions vodka at one point. Yeah, he's not super memorable, but he plays some level of importance later in the series. But yeah, you're introduced to these other characters. Season 2 had 6 episodes in it, which, when you look at seasons 3 and 4, you can they're listed as season 4 and they're listed as seasons 1 and 2, but honestly seasons 1 and 2 are one season, because the story is continuous throughout, and there's not a huge resolution that happens at the end of what they say is season 1, which is at the end of episode 4. So season 2 basically culminates with them fighting Dracula, and they end up defeating Dracula, the three of them. They storm his castle. One, he's betrayed by Carmilla and Hector, who find that Dracula is not doing enough, and he's not enacting enough of his plan, which is interesting. That's ironic. You'll come back to that later. But they basically betray him. They turn on him. They flood his castle with holy water after teleporting it to a city that has a river full of holy water. And it kills a lot of his vampire army, and then the main three storm his castle, fight him, and defeat him, and ultimately killing him. And it ends with Sypha and Trevor going off on their own adventures, essentially, and then Alucard inherits his father's castle, and he sets it next to the ruins of the Belmont estate. And so, and then like Hector, Isaac, Carmilla, they all kind of like go their separate ways, except Hector, who somehow thinks that he is friends with Carmilla, gets tricked into being a slave of hers. Like she she basically beats him down and is like, "You're now my pet," and it's fucked up. I feel for Hector during most of this series, because he just gets played. But the major thing is he's just super he isn't very perceptive, and he doesn't realize that he is getting played in most by most accounts. So it's like, bro, you gotta be this has been your entire life. There's gotta be at some point at which you learn. And I feel like, although I'm not gonna say that he had it coming, but he definitely sets himself up for failure. I'm not gonna say that he had it coming, but it's just the whole thing is he sets himself up to be abused, because he puts himself in situations where
he's gonna get his ass
where he's gonna get where he's gonna get set up. I'm not excusing anything that happens to him, but she enslaves him, and you find out that she's got her own castle, because all vampires have castles, I guess. So
it's part of the pedigree, man.
Yeah, that's
when you become a vampire, you get a castle.
Yeah, you show up to the vampire orientation. They're like, all right, now if you just sign the form for your new castle, you can we'll have you moved in fairly soon here.
Castle, yes, every vampire gets one.
So yeah, that was kind of like my thoughts after season 2 was I still thought season 2 was cool because they introduced more characters, and the final showdown with Dracula was pretty dope. The final showdown with Dracula was pretty cool. It was weird to me though, and we've talked about this before. Sypha just seems hella overpowered.
You beat me to it.
Yeah, you go ahead and talk. You can talk more about it. I've talked a lot.
Look, Sypha, I love this character. She's got a phenomenal accent. Kudos to the actress. But this woman's unstoppable. She went from being found, turned to stone by a Cyclops. I don't know how that happened. She must have been caught off guard, because by the time we get to season 2, she's taking out vampire generals by the dozen. Right. And she makes it look like it's easy. She first starts off with a fire. Is that right? Or is it ice? Well,
she has both. She has all of the elements at her disposal.
Right, but she starts off. It starts off slow with what she can do.
Yeah, in the first season. Yeah, in that first season, Yeah,
I believe it's just fire. I believe
she uses ice too at some point.
Okay. Well, maybe a little bit, because here's the thing about sci-fi. She pulls a rabbit out of a hat and then pulls out another rabbit. And then that third rabbit is something you never really expected. She's full of things in this magical hat. And through this magical hat...
I feel like a better analogy is that she pulls out a rabbit, and then she pulls out a wolf to eat the rabbit. And then she pulls out a human to eat the rabbit. And then she pulls out a vampire to eat the human. And then she murders the vampire. Like, that's what Sypha does time and time again in battle.
Time and time again. Because the choreography and the animation is fantastic. But again, this woman's a machine. She is got unlimited mana, it seems like. And the way she uses her powers are super creative. Do not get me wrong. But there is no limit. At one point, not only does she exert so much power, apparently she's durable as fuck. Right. Because she took a shot from Dracula, the same shot that Trevor and Alucard took, and she tanked that like a bro. Like, I mean, she tanked it like a champion, because she got back up and still kept slinging spells.
Yeah.
Like nothing happened.
Yep.
Now, you can call it adrenaline, or you can call it written BS. Sypha is a fucking G. She don't take no shit. And she can do it all day. She's never slowing down. I can't remember a time where she's like, running low on mana, I can't cast these spells. In fact, we're going to talk in Season 4 about how she went from, I don't know, looking like she was tired to just blow everything up. Right. Alright. Okay. She's still got more. She's got a second, third, and fourth wind. Sypha is a goat.
Yeah.
She is the goat.
But like, I think on top of that, it's just like, what is it that she can't do? Like, I'm like there was never a situation where I felt like she was gonna die.
Never.
There's never, because like, because she's able to freaking do anything. Like, it just seems like she can do anything. Because, like you said, like, she can use fire, ice, and lightning as her spells. And sometimes she uses them in tandem. We see later she begins to use them in tandem. So she can use like fire to like blast herself off the ground, kind of like how Azula did in Avatar. Like, she would use fire to like, to propel herself. Then she would use like ice spears to impale things. Yeah, it was just ridiculous, like what she's able to do. And so there's never a point where I'm like, bruh, like what, like. Man, this is going to be the end of Sypha, and not just because of like hero bullshit, like you know the feeling of like, oh, this can't be it for the heroes because they're the hero of the show. Like, I'm not.
Heck, we felt that. I felt that in this story with Trevor and Alucard. In different points. Yeah. Sypha, no. I thought with the moment that Sypha got hit by Dracula in her arm. Now, mind you, she has a lasting scar. That's it. So before someone's like, she's taken damage before, when Dracula hit her, she had a lasting scar. Yeah, but she still came up and shot that nigga with fireballs and ice stuff like nothing happened. She held it for 2 minutes and still fought with it. Don't give me that. Look, like, Alucard was taking shots bleeding. Trevor is damn near dead. Sypha's like, bring it. Pow, 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 pow. Pow, pow. And sometimes it feels like with her character they nerf her, and sometimes it feels like purposely. This is more in Season 4 at the very least. The final confrontation where the story made it so she's not available because she'd be on some bullshit and pretty much almost take care of it herself. Sometimes it just feels like no one else is needed. We don't really need Alucard and Trevor. I just need Sypha. I don't need Trevor. You can sit this one out, bro. I don't need to go hand-to-hand combat. I got these fire hands, and I got ice spears, and not only can I do this all at the same time, in every direction, for who knows how far, because she's got infinite mana. I can recover just that easy. I take no damage. I'm invincible. Yeah, Sypha is amazing, and I don't know where we're going with this. I can go on a rant about Sypha all freaking day. She's the audience to me. I'm talking more about her in Season 4 because her character definitely changes quite a bit, has a phenomenal character arc as we see from Season 3 on. Actually, towards the end of Season 2 to Season 3 and full circle in Season 4. Yeah. She has a pretty interesting character arc that really comes full circle.
But overall, season 2...
But that doesn't change the fact...
Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that, like, she's, like, super overpowered at times. It just seems... And, like, I don't know... I don't know that we have seen the limit of her abilities. So, like...
No, we haven't. We've seen everyone else's.
Yeah.
We have not seen hers. After she brought the vampire out to kill it, she brought a behemoth to kill that, and then she blew it up.
Yeah, so season two overall, it was more of what we loved from season 1. It was solid. It introduced some key characters, but ultimately they defeat Dracula. So season 3 actually opens up. I think it's maybe like a month or so after they defeat Dracula, and like most of a large portion of the vampires. They end up killing a large portion of the vampires. That were like the generals in Dracula's army. But Camilla is still alive. Ruski is still alive. And Hector and Isaac are still alive. So as Dracula was being invaded, he kind of like flung Isaac into like a desert to like save him. And Isaac, of course, is kind of like... he's like torn up about this because Dracula is like the only person that like ever gave him like agency in his life. So Dracula was a friend essentially to him. So and then of course Isaac being like Isaac, I gotta say Isaac is probably like one of my favorite characters in this entire show. And he's also one of the best characters, and the coldest fighter is like one of the coldest fighters.
100%. He's just a regular person too.
Yeah. I was gonna say like he's better. Like Trevor, his family like has been fighting night creatures and vampires and stuff like that for like centuries or whatever. But Isaac was a slave who I imagine is mostly like self-taught, and this dude is like one of the most dangerous fighters on the like in this entire cast, and he's just a regular dude who like knows magic. Like that's it. So like his arc in the 3rd season is essentially like he's kind of coming to grips of like I'm going to become my own, like I'm going to become the ruler of my life. And so we basically see him having multiple run-ins with people who try to take advantage of him, and who try to like he's getting a drink of water in the desert, and this random dude is like, give us everything you've got, blah blah blah, or he'll take it from you. They basically got him at knife point, and Trevor's like, so let me get this straight. Like he sits like he's just calm about the whole thing. He's like, let me get this straight. You see a dude trying to get a drink, and your first instinct is to rob him. And the dude is basically like, that's what we came to do. And Isaac is like, y'all motherfuckers. Right. And then he fucks them up and turns them into night creatures. And so that's basically all Isaac does the 3rd season is fucks people up, turns them into night creatures. And essentially like he becomes like he takes back this city that was controlled by like a mad magician, who like enslaved the people, turned them into zombies, that whole deal. Like that's, he takes back this entire city and like kind of becomes the ruler of the city. Now, I think the biggest movement that kind of happens in season 3 is you meet this guy named Saint Germain, who is kind of like a traveling
circus act.
Yeah, because he's like he's a professor. Yeah, he's got the charm of a bard, the intelligence of a wizard, and the wisdom of a professor, whatever. And you find out it's like he's trying to get to this thing called the Infinite Corridor, where the love of his life was apparently lost, and he runs into Trevor and Cypher, and they kind of like help him because they run into this demon that can open a portal into the Infinite Corridor, and so he asks them to like help him like defeat this thing essentially, so that he can get into the Infinite Corridor, and it ends with him going into this corridor. Now, The other major movement is that you meet Carmilla's quote unquote sisters. They're basically other female vampires who have banded together.
Who've had old men take things from them.
Yeah, and so they become like key members. There's like Lenore, who's kind of like the younger sister. She's kind of like a diplomat. She's kind of like a she's a negotiator and a manipulator. She plays mind games, right? Like that's her big thing. She's a vampire, so she has a level of strength to her, but she's not the strongest. She's not the greatest fighter, but she's a shrewd negotiator and a manipulator is the big thing.
She's basically, the pen of the sword. She's the person that would prefer the pen.
Yeah. And so, and then there's I don't know, brown lady vampire, and then
my gosh, it's and then big buff lesbian vampire.
Yeah, and so and they're an item. So like that's basically their character trait, is that one of them, because I think the brown lady vampire, her big thing is like she can
she's the intelligent one. She's the one that can plan.
Yeah, she's a planner and organizer. And then, of course, the big lady vampire is
beats up stuff.
She beats the not just beats up, she eviscerates stuff. Especially, and you see that in season 4. But
she smashes things to bits.
Yeah, but basically, these 4 sisters, they call themselves, are like the 4 kind of like elite female vampires who have been, for the most part, ostracized by other vampires in most of the world because they're women and vampires, and so. They kind of have carved out this kingdom by themselves, this castle that is their own, and they come together with Carmilla. Carmilla has this plan of creating like human pens, essentially, so that they don't run out of food, and so they start enacting this plan. And Hector, who is one of their prisoner, is the he's the crux of this plan, because he can make night creatures, which is a key element of a dark evil army in this series, is having an infinite supply of demons that you can sick on people. And so but of course they're like, well, Hector's not going to do that of his own free will. He's not going to create night creatures for us because I beat this motherfucker up and threw him in a prison. So how are we going to do this? And so Lenore is like, I'll talk to him. I'll try and get him, to our side. I'll, explain kind of what we've got going on. Lo and behold, her actual plan is to get this dude to fall in love with her. And while they're having sex, she's like, tell me you're mine. And he's like, in the middle of having sex,
while he's inside of her.
Yeah, like
while he's inside of her.
He's like, yes, I'm yours. And then she puts this ring on him, and because he declared himself like her subject or whatever, it binds him to her and whoever has the ring. And that in turn binds him to the other 3 sisters in this vampire sister quartet. So that he has to do what they tell him. And so, of course, like, he's betrayed yet again, because he can't read signs. Is like, you motherfucker, but he can't say you say you motherfucker because she is in control of him. So,
and on top of that, you know what was really messed up about that? She fucked him in the jail, and he didn't think anything was weird about that. Like, this dressed up vampire who was wearing lingerie, by the way, under her thing. Like, she couldn't take him to like anywhere else, like a fresh pair of sheets. You didn't tell me you didn't think it was weird she wanted to bang you in your own jail cell? You don't think that was at all just a little suspicious when she's telling you to tell her sweet nothings while you're in this dirty cell that you were thrown in not just too long ago, naked with 1 meal a day and a cold bucket of water thrown on you? Yeah, none of this seemed at all weird. And she's like, take me now. Yeah, you think you got that much game, my guy? She didn't even take you to go to a fresh bed that she had upstairs. Wasn't like it was a secret.
Yeah.
Like Hector's just like, and Hector's just so surprised. Like, I can't believe you tricked me. Do you know who threw you in here? Do you really know who threw you in here? Did you forget that she beat the shit out of you the previous season when you thought y'all were friends and reminded you were nothing more than a dog and made you walk all the way back to her castle?
Not to mention,
Did you forget?
This is the third or fourth time in the show that we've seen Hector tricked by someone. Like, just seeing him manipulated by someone.
And it doesn't even seem like it's difficult. Like, it just doesn't. And he almost acknowledges it. I'm just naive. Nah, man, you stupid. Like, you just stupid, man. Because, like, I know naive people. Some red flags go off. I'm a diplomat. I get what I want.
Right.
And you mean to tell me she threw her legs open and say these things while you in it? And that wasn't a red flag?
Yeah, that just seems like, bruh, like you gotta read the signs. Like, I understand, like, you've been in prison, you've been mistreated, and the opportunity to get some can be exhilarating.
Can really tempt a man.
This just reminds me of the Booty Warrior. That's it. That's precisely. And like, I used to think that, nah, man, that can't be true. They can't be true that like somebody would just like, well, because the Booty Warrior said something. I'm not going to say it's profound, but it was something pretty hilarious. And he was like, if you put water and booty in front of me, I'm choosing booty. I gotta have booty more than water. And I used to think that, like, bruh, like, you must be out of your mind. You gotta be. But obviously Hector proved that true. Because booty was more important than water.
Booty is more important than freedom.
Like, just like King said, this dude was in a terrible cell, was being mistreated, still didn't have like clean water, still didn't have good food. Like, you just thought that she was you thought she was down there because of your personality, bro. And in season 4, like, she comes to like him, and it's implied slightly that she kind of cared for this guy, this is business, bro. Like, this is what I'm here for, and you're my pet, right? It's like that. It don't work like that, my guy. It don't work like that.
No, it don't work like that. And here's what killed me. We're talking about season 4. Like, the moment it switches up, and now she's feeling him. Now Hector wants to be all about business. Now you want to be all about business? Now you do? After she put the ring on you? Oh, okay, because before you didn't care.
Yeah.
But now that she's throwing herself at you with these innuendos, now you're offended.
Yeah.
Now it's all business. Get out of here, Hector. Go, look, Hector, let me tell you something. She told you that she's a diplomat here to convince you to work with her and her sisters from jump.
Right.
And you were stupid enough to think that she loved you after she told you what she came down there to do.
Yep.
You're stupid.
You took your eye off the ball, my guy, or maybe you had your eye on the wrong ball, if you know what I'm saying. You know what would have been a crazy plot twist is that he the whole time knew that was going to happen and didn't care because he knew he was going to serve them anyway, and just wanted to get some vampire puss. Like, I would have respected Hector hell out of Hector for that. It's like, I got what I wanted. Well, you're my slave now. I know. I was in a cell getting 1 meal per day. I hit you, and I got my own room. And I got fresh food. If anyone, I did. If he came back at the end of season 3 or even season 4, was just like, I planned all this out. People think I'm naive, but this time I played you. How so? You thought I played hard to get just for shits and giggles? I was covered in cold water, naked in a cell, and you came around. All I had to do was wait you out. And then on top of getting my own room, my own bed, I also got to hit that. Oh, I wasn't expecting that one for sure. But you better believe that was a victory. If he came back season 4, I would have been just like, Hector, you're goated too. Yeah.
I respect the hell out of that. I respect the hell out of that. I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming.
And I typically hate like the whole like, oh, I planned this from the beginning, but I would have given that a pass. I would have given that a straight pass.
I would have.
My guy.
He would have jumped up from most hated character for me to most loved character. It's like, you beat me. Like, he looks at Camilla. You beat me. I fuck your sister. This is. But,
oh god. Oh my goodness.
Dog,
yeah.
if he did that,
if that was how that wrapped up, I would have been like, "Yep, I'm here for it."
I would have. Yep. I would have spat up my drink if he said that. That's Camilla's getting ready to die. Like, why would you do this? Because you beat my ass. Remember that when you beat me, made me walk to your castle. So I planned this.
Oh, and he walked to her castle butt naked too, didn't he? Like,
no, he has clothes on.
Or he didn't have shoes.
Right, he didn't have shoes on, but he had his clothes on. So they didn't strip him down until they put him in the cell.
That's true.
And then they threw cold water on him. But still,
but he was walking, bro. My man was walking barefoot through snow. Do you know how painful that is?
Cold. It was hard, and it was miles too. It was days of travel because her way back had to have been, it was a couple weeks because they expected her back sooner, but they had to wait because they were getting picked off by neighboring factions that they were passing through or something like that. Like, it was a couple weeks that he was walking just barefoot, barely eating anything. Yeah. And so, if he came and looked at Camilla when he put that trap there and had Isaac go up to her and she's like, Hector, why? And he just dished everything we just said, like, when you beat my ass when you walked through the snow, I got my revenge. I fucked your sister. I created these night creatures. I plotted against you, and I'm having Hector to come kill you. So now, know that this was my doing. Yeah. Like, I would have spat out my drink, paused it, gone on social media and said, Hector, you're goated, bro. Yeah. That is some high level reverse manipulation there. Because man. Yeah. Man. Can you imagine?
that would have been something. And she couldn't say nothing either.
She couldn't say nothing either.
Say anything if he did that too.
Because he's strapped. Fighting for her life. Now you know what it's like to get your ass beat.
I'm fighting for my
See you in hell, Camilla.
Yeah, they had Carmella out here like R. Kelly in this last season though. One last thing about season 3 though. So like I think overall, overall, I think the major thing is that when in season 3, like the story sometimes seemed all over the place, and there was no sound resolution at the end. Alucard's major thing was like he just kind of like moped the entire time, and he began to become like his dad, like a shut-in vampire who despises like visitors. And at the very end we see him like being like he's tricked by these two that he takes in to begin teaching them, and they basically betray him. They try and kill him, and he ends up having to kill both of them, and he puts their dead bodies on pikes just like his dad would have done outside the castle.
Those two weren't twins. They were just in the same.
They were just from like the same tribe, and they served, and they were free because their master. So I think they were from Japan, and there was a Japanese vampire that also came, and because a Japanese vampire that came to work with Dracula, and because their master was killed, they were like now free, and that was like the big thing.
Right, and even their plan didn't make sense to me, because if someone didn't tell me something, my first instinct isn't to go fuck them and then trap them.
Yeah,
I never like that. Like that whole scene felt like the directors not knowing what they wanted to do for me.
Yeah,
because it felt like random sex for no reason, and there were plenty of other ways to let Alucard's guard down. It wasn't like he was, putting swords to their faces before they tied his hands up and said, "Teach us everything." Like, you didn't have to do what you did for however long you did to catch him.
Right.
So it just felt at the end of that scene, I was like, "What was your plan after you had sex with him? To tie him up and then have him tell you your secrets?" Yeah. Why did you even bother with the sex part? He was just laying in bed. Well, to let his guard down. His guard was already down. You've been with him for weeks. Why even do all that?
Yeah.
Like why? Like, if anything, you only pissed him off.
Yeah, and I think that was like that's one of the major problems that I had with season 3 was I didn't feel like not everything made sense first and foremost, but on top of that, it seemed like there was a lot of meandering in season 3. Like there are a lot of different storylines you're following, because you're following Sypha and Trevor's storyline. You're following Alucard's storyline. You're following Camilla's storyline, and you're following Isaac's storyline. So you're following all these different like perspectives and saying, and they didn't always. There was no real overlap, right. And that was the thing.
They're all separate stories.
Yeah, they were all separate stories. And so it seemed very disjointed. And by the end of the season, there was no like resolution where it was like, oh, I see how these things connect. And because it ends on that note, it just seemed like, okay, what exactly is happening? Now, the animation was great in this season. Like visually, it was very great. But the story just seemed very disjointed, and it didn't seem connected in this particular season. And I think that was the thing that kind of threw me off of this season, of the third season, was that it just seemed like, okay, where's this going? Because nothing was resolved. Hector is down even worse. Isaac is the ruler of this city now, I guess, and he has an army of night creatures. So I guess that's his thing.
Camilla's plotting with her sisters.
Yeah. And Trevor and Sypha.
Oh, right. They had a plot where they tried to save a city and failed.
Yeah.
That was a whole 4 or 5 episodes where they met Saint Germain and all that, and we were introduced to Infinite Corridor. Right. Those two had a character arc. Of their budding relationship, that we know they're having a relationship. I know the end of season 2, it's alluded to, and they don't really say it outright. But season 3, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty overt. They're sleeping together and they're traveling together. So it's like, yeah, like they very clearly have a relationship. So
but they also have a story arc, and that ends on a sour note. Which, as I alluded to earlier, Sypha has an interesting character arc where this really comes to shine a little bit, as the beginning of Trevor. Something to say for Sypha. Sypha's character arc begins where she's all about the adventure, the next thing being a hero. And after this failure in this city where a lot of people died, it was considered a failure. We see Trevor and Sypha face their first sense of defeat.
Yeah.
In at least Sypha's. Trevor's used to this at this point. He knows that you can't save them all. But it's interesting seeing how Sypha kind of gets shocked back to reality a little bit, that it's not just fun and games of killing creatures for the fun of it. And it goes to show season 3 where they kind of meandered. They did in this plot line too, and they paid for it. By their inaction in some areas, or not taking it seriously, or not seriously enough.
Yep.
So Sypha has an interesting start of a character arc through this one that starts to come full fruition in season 4, which we're about to get to.
Yeah, and so you leave off in season 3, kind of like there's these four main plot lines that don't all seem connected, and so it leads you into season 4, and you're like, okay, so what's going to happen? What's about to happen?
And boy, did stuff happen.
So season 4 takes place 6 weeks after the conclusion of season 3. You find that there are a bunch of people trying to bring back Dracula for whatever reason. For various reasons, both some human, some vampire. You pick up on all of the major storylines from the previous season, with Sypha and Trevor, Isaac, and you find that Isaac is kind of like having a bit of an epiphany of like realizing, like, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm able to control what I do, and you're under the impression, based off of season 3, that he's trying to get revenge on Hector. Like, he's trying to kill Hector for betraying Dracula. And so
certainly feels like that.
Yeah, and so and he even says it at one point, is that like he's got some unfinished business, and he realizes that Hector is in Carmilla's imprisonment, like he's like she has him, and so that's part of the reason why he's raising this army of night creatures, is so that he can swarm her castle essentially. And so for most of the you get one really quick episode pretty early on in season 4 where you kind of see the city that he took over. He's actually been rebuilding. He's been having the night creatures rebuild the city so that humans can inhabit the city again. And it's actually interesting because he has this conversation with one of the night creatures, because one of the night creatures is like the whole thing about night creatures is that they're bound to whoever creates them, and throughout the season, you just see night creatures used for destruction and death. And one of the night creatures actually asks, like, why are you having us build stuff when our purpose is to destroy? And Isaac offers him a berry, like, and the night creature is like, we don't eat berries, we eat blood and meat, like that's what we need. And Isaac is like, you eat blood and meat because like someone told you eat blood and meat, and you destroy because someone told you to destroy. And this is deep, like, philosophical conversation with this like demon, and he's like, you're doing what you're doing because you think that's the way that you're supposed to be. And so I'm going to ask you again, do you want a berry? And the night creature actually wants the berry and is like starting to get like memories and stuff like that. And so and that's the major part of the episode. It's just that Isaac is beginning to kind of like see, like, he actually has identity outside of just what he's known and just what he's been told. And so, it's kind of interesting, like kind of what happens. So that's kind of like where Isaac is, and that's where he stays for most of the season. It's just kind of like rebuilding this town, and like he's just kind of like establishing his army of night creatures. Now it gets kind of hairy at this point, because Alucard has basically been spending his time getting drunk and moping in his castle.
Oh my gosh, he's like Trevor.
Yeah,
Trevor
and
Belmont.
he begins to realize he's becoming like Trevor Belmont, which is one of his greatest fears. And he's basically become a shut-in, and you see that there are more people that he's killed, who have like tried to, I guess, like sneak into or invade the castle, because there are more bodies, impaled, just like Vlad the Impaler of Tepish. And so he basically gets this SOS from a nearby village that night creatures have been invading, and they're seeking help. Like someone, like a dead body, comes with a note attached to it on a horse and is like, we need your help, bro, because night creatures are fucking us up. And so he reluctantly goes to help, and he finds that it's a pretty dire situation. And for some reason, Saint Germain is there, and which we find out that at the end of season 3, when he went into the Infinite Corridor, this being in the Infinite Corridor, which is basically kind of like this teleport to all these different worlds and places, it basically tells him that like the only way that you can control the Infinite Corridor is with a basically like this alchemical creature. It's kind of like a homunculi type of deal.
Hermaphrodite.
It's a hermaphrodite homunculi or something like that with multiple souls in it. And so he's like,
Rebus.
He's like, the only way that you can do that is if you bring back Dracula and fuse him with his wife in the same body, for some reason. And so he's like, and she's like, it's the only way, blah blah blah. And he's like, but that'll mean that people will die. And then the lady's like, well, how else are you going to bring back the woman that you want, blah blah blah. And so he's like, well, I do want to have sex again. So So he enacts this plan that involves going into Dracula's castle and summoning him in his castle, and that required them sending help to Alucard to get them to bring them all to the castle. And the other big plot line that's happening during this time is basically it's basically just that Carmilla is like going mad with her ambitions, and the biggest villain in her eyes is old men.
Old men have always taken things from me.
There's literally a conversation that she's having with Lenore where she says like it was because of old men. She says that like 7 times in this.
Like let's to give an example. I'm sitting here talking with Lord Third. Lord Third, what are you having for breakfast tomorrow?
Old men.
Okay, so I know that old men have really messed with you, but after you have breakfast, are you going to be happy?
No, because it was old men that didn't allow me to have my breakfast in the first place. And it was old men who were at the store when I went to go buy my cereal. And it was old men who made that cereal in the first place so that I would get fat. So that old men would find me less attractive. And that's why old men need to die. That's literally what the conversation is like.
It was weird. It was so heavy-handed to where it was like, if you say old man one more time, I swear. Even Lenore's getting frustrated in this conversation as she repeats her question like, okay, I hear you, but will that make you happy?
Like, bro, you need to...
Old men made me not happy. So I'll take everything from them.
I was like, bro, bro, you good?
Lenore was fed up.
Yeah.
Camilla was crazy, and Camilla wanted old men to suffer.
Yeah.
When really I only count like 2. Her backstory was like, I don't know. I know there's one bad old man and Dracula, but was it men or man? Because I didn't see the men. I saw one man and then Dracula.
Yeah.
Dracula's wife just died.
I mean, I'm just gonna assume that there were more, but like, I'm like, bruh, chill.
Like, we get it. Old men treated you very, very, very poorly.
And then so she translates that to like, I'm going to rule the world. It goes from just like subjugating like nearby villages to like, I'm going to rule the fucking world. And I'm like, bro.
That escalated real quickly.
Yeah. And so this is also like against the wishes of her sisters. Like, her sisters are along with the plan to create like a human pen, but they're not trying to like take over the world, because they realize that that's too ambitious and that spreads them too thin, and that's more than what they wanted to do. Like, they just want to be set and to be able to live together, especially the brown lady vampire and the brute vampire. They're like we love each other, right? Like, we just want to provide for ourselves. We just want to be good, and that's our whole thing. And so nobody is on board with this plan that Carmilla has, except Carmilla. And especially not Hector, who is like plotting her downfall as they speak. So that's like where Carmilla is at. That's where Alucard is at. And then basically Trevor and Sypha are kind of on their own, kind of like, all of these people are trying to like bring back Dracula. Some people are worshiping the spirit of death. This is weird. That's basically their entire plot line.
And then it all comes to a head after episode. We see some climactic, we see some really well animated battles.
Yeah.
Some really crazy dialogue. Sypha's language, and she makes it a point, she goes on a rant about how she curses all the time now, which is fantastic. I love it. Sypha, I think, is probably my favorite character, because she speaks like the audience. There's one scene where she looks at the camera and says, "The fuck now?"
Right.
After some weird plot point came up, she's like, "The fuck now? What?
Like, how does that make sense?
Why?
Yeah.
How's that make? Why?" And we're sitting there just like, "Yeah, why?" And then she blows everything up.
Yeah.
But all this comes to a head when all these moving pieces. You have Alucard defending the villagers. You have Saint Germain enacting his plot. You have cultists trying to bring back Dracula. You have Trevor and Sypha trying to protect these people. Travost, and then you have Isaac attacking Camilla's castle to take her down. Now, in the last couple episodes, we see all this come to a head in a very glorious series finale in the last couple episodes. And I'm gonna take it piece by piece here, just real quick to kind of build it up. So, starting with Trevor and Sypha, these two were trying to recover a plot of the underground court, which is nothing. It's really just nothing. This lady that was talking about it, her name was Leafa or something like that. Leafa, terrible manager, queen person. Yeah. I'm glad she died. She was terrible, and I thought she was a villain, and she kind of was, but she was more.
Yeah, she was just kind of in the way. Like her whole thing was that like she was apparently serving like the actual like the king and queen of Travaste or whatever the name of the town is. It was basically the first town that Dracula fucked up.
And she was just incompetent.
Yeah, and so she was putting on this ruse, like the actual king and queen of the town were underground, in what was called the underground court, and she was protecting the people, blah blah blah, and she wasn't providing any support or training people above ground to protect themselves from night creatures, and so everyone up ground is just like living in like languish and filth and whatnot, and so she's just kind of like, yeah, like they, they can fend themselves, blah blah blah. When it's like this is literally your job to protect people, and she's like, well, if you come down underground, it'll be fine because the royalty or whatever, and you find out that the royalty are actually dead, and she's
dead corpses.
Yeah, and she's just deluded.
She's
herself.
Gone insane.
Yeah, like she's deluded herself and thinking they'll wake up. They'll come back. They're going to save us. Blah, blah, blah. And I know it's supposed to be like some sort of like character thing. It was just more annoying and a waste of my time more than anything.
It was a waste of everyone's time because she thought that the holy water that was streaming through the underground would protect them. All the vampires did was jump over it. Right. And then she was shocked like, what? And
yeah,
one of the vampires made a point just like, oh, that would have been close. Oh well. Like
he was like nasty stuff and just hopped over it. Yeah, I think that was the funniest thing to me because Sypha, like they come down and they see everything that's happening. They've got like they got stores of weapons, they've got stores of food, all the stuff. They're like, no, the royalty needs it. Like we can't give it to the people above ground and you see people out here just like starving and like. It's not any better down, like, underground. They just have a roof over their head, and the roof is the city streets. And she's like, well, you need to, like, bottle up this, like, what are you doing with the holy water? That can fend off the night creatures. And she's like, no, we need it just in case they invade. And the dude just jumps over it. Like, what were you going to do?
It was Zaif's, like, this is our last line of defense. You know why the underground is so powerful? We have holy water flowing through here. And she thought that would literally just stop them right there. I'm like... That was what made it so stupid. She was, like, shocked. And everyone was just like... And even Sypha was like, it's just... What do you mean? It's gonna protect them. The fuck now? Like... And it's like, what are you talking about? And so we find out Zemif, whatever her name is, I hate her, is deranged, crazy, and she deserved to die. Yeah. I didn't like her. But the battle comes to a head. We beat Slavic vampire lord, and we find out that the secret behind the royal court was the big mirror that every big baddie communicates through and transports themselves to.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, Alucard has taken the villagers back to his castle where they're being attacked heavily by night creatures. We find, and they bring out this Godzilla-looking thing that can shoot massive amounts of fire and just do a lot of damage, which I don't know why they didn't open up with that in the first place, but we find out that it's part of Saint Germain's plan to collect enough souls to create the Rebus, because he's God now, and God's gonna have sex again tonight.
And that's he literally says that in the show.
He says this in the show. It's hilarious. He has some great lines, but I hate the guy.
Yeah.
So Alucard is helping defend the villagers against this attack, doing everything he can to save as many lives as possible, as Saint Germain's collecting all the souls to create the Rebus, the hermaphrodite that will help him through the infinite corridor to find his wife. Now, as Alucard is slowly losing ground as these creatures are really taking a toll, he is pretty much backed into a corner at this point. Meanwhile, back with Trevor and Sypha, they jump through the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up right where we want them to be. Right at Alucard's castle. And they come in with a blaze of glory. As Alucard is fighting to save the last remaining people after he discovered Saint Germain's plan and finding out he can't do nothing about it. He is faced off against too many night creatures, and all of a sudden, bam! His two best friends, Trevor and Sypha, are reunited with him.
Mm-hmm.
Side by side, and we see some of the best fan service of combo attacks and animation I have seen. I haven't seen in a long time. Yeah. I'm talking the combo attacks that you scream, your inner weeb screams. If you don't jitter with joy, you're dead inside. I'm sorry, you didn't watch the same show I did. You're not feeling it. If you're watching these three tag team as they're doing special attacks together. It's almost as if you're just watching control commands playing the PS4 on, I don't know, insert any game that has that stuff. It's awesome. It's amazing. And you're sitting there, you're giddy, and you forget there's a madman upstairs trying to summon a fucking Rebus so that he can ride it into the infinite corridor, and you're kind of lost in the fact that Camilla just got fucked up. Oh, sorry, I forgot to talk about that. We'll come back to her because this is.
I mean that deserves his
yeah, we're gonna come back to that part. It's not significant to this part of the story, but they team up and they take out all the remaining night creatures, and we find out it's all a big plot by Saint Germain to gather the souls, like I said before, but it was all orchestrated by none other than Death itself. Varney comes in a very fun, interesting fashion.
Who is just like this? It comes off as just like a bumbling vampire that like nobody cares about during this entire, and he wasn't there in like any of the other seasons. So I'm like, bro, like who is this dude?
He's new, and he wants you to think that he's smart. He wants you to think that he's smart. He wants you to know that he's smart. That's why he says smart things. So you know he's intelligent. But he's got the greatest plan of all. It's all a ploy to bring everything together, make Dracula go insane with his revival, to murder numbers unseen in history, because Varney is actually the embodiment of the spirit of death in disguise.
And he wants to drink that sweet death.
That sweet death, baby. That sweet death. So, now the plot thickens as now Germain has unleashed death upon everyone to get his wife back so he can have sex again at the cost of murdering everyone in the world. Yeah, man, that really kills a boner, doesn't it? Because after he completes the spell, he then decides, this isn't a good idea. Probably because overcome with guilt probably would not really set the mood right when you're trying to have sex that night after bringing back your wife. Hey, honey, how'd you bring me back? I sacrificed all of humanity. So you want to get down? So you want to go on top first, or what? It's like, you did what? Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be a good way to start this whole thing. Let me start over. I love you. I'm not going to forget you just said that. You're never hitting this. Oh man. And everyone dies for nothing.
Cue the laugh track. Like I'm like, bro, like what are you like? Why? I understand being distraught. To like to some degree, but I'm like, bro, why?
Why? But what this does, it brings into some of the best, one of the best cinematic battles of the entire series, our finale, where you have Trevor Belmont taking on Death itself. Lord Third, what are your thoughts on this final battle?
So like the fact that like it kind of like all culminates here was just a lot of fun for me. I mean, I think that there's just like there are a lot of really cool fights in this season. Everything from like the I forget the name of the big vampire in the big female vampire. But like she has.
Oh, you mean Berserk?
Yeah, she's basically dressed
Guts
up
2.0?
she's basically dressed up like Guts in like this like sunproof armor, which it's just dope. And she eviscerates this group of humans that tries to come and like fight them in their encampment. But that was a dope fight. Like pretty much every fight that Isaac has is amazing. Like when they storm Carmela's castle, that fight was freaking amazing. But
his battle against Carmela was I think by far my favorite.
Yeah.
The combos and the interesting use of his night creatures was just on par. There's a little part where he is blocking in combination with his night creature, and I literally screamed for joy on how cold that looked.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
And you just see him. He's basically just kind of like ducking and weaving the entire fight, like ducking and weaving the entire fight,
and doing damage.
Yeah,
he's actually doing damage to Camilla on his
own. Every time, she goes in for attack, he bobs, weaves, stabs her. Bobs, weaves, stabs her. But like you said, I think the way that he utilized the night creatures to his benefit, to allow him to maneuver, to defend, to distract, that was just cool. Because there's one main night creature that is kind of his main guard,
his go-to.
Yeah, his go-to that sticks with him. But she's basically been slaying night creatures in her chamber this entire time. So the entire floor has blood all over it. So it sets the scene for this climactic battle. And basically by the time he shows up, she is livid. But yeah, just the way that he moved, that was phenomenal. And then, she is like, I'll see you in hell, bitch. And then she kills herself, exploding.
Why'd she explode?
Because
old men. Because old men did her dirty.
Yep. But yeah, I would agree that was probably that might have been, that was my favorite overall fight scene. But there were some other just really good fight scenes. Alucard is my favorite in terms of just what he's able to do. Cause he has a floating sword that he commands at will. And that thing is sick.
It's
and the way that it's similar to Isaac in that they know their ability so well that they just kind of they do this stuff kind of flawlessly, and it's just dazzling to watch. I just like it. But with Trevor and his fight against Death, I think the major thing about Trevor is that the major reason why I like this scene so much was because this entire series, you always you're hearing about how much has rested on Belmont's shoulders, but none of this plot has ever rested on Trevor.
No, not to this point.
And so to see him kind of in a situation where it was just him finally living up to his name and actually doing something that was where he actually where he was actually fully a Belmont. I was like this dude is going all out. That was the type of thing that was cool. I still love Sypha and Alucard more than them. But but it was just a great just finale moment. And it was
Trevor really got to shine in that moment.
Yeah,
he really
and
did.
I liked it. And it's initially implied that he died, but nobody who was watching the show was yeah, Trevor's dead. Nobody was.
No one wasn't. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh, they're really gonna go there. They're really gonna kill this guy off. If they did, I was like, that brought some serious weight I was not expecting. Yeah. Wow. All right. I respect them for that. But even if I know that Trevor wasn't dead, it didn't change it for me. It still was awesome. One thing I liked about that final battle was it felt like that cartoony last big boss battle in a video game, which I felt they were going for, but it didn't. It was choreographed so well, done so well. all you could do was sit and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, you're seeing this little man fight this big ass spirit, little embodiment of death. How is he gonna win? And what I really appreciated was the actual the choreography for sure, and the overall damage. The one thing that annoys me about shonen anime is that you see big characters hit little people, and little people take a lot of damage, and so it really doesn't matter the size difference.
Yeah.
It's annoying as hell. And I think a lot of shows are kind of taking note to that. I think Attack on Titan was one of the few where they subverted that, where little people can take all that.
Yeah.
No, you can't. Size really does matter. It just
Yeah,
is what it is.
it sometimes it just takes one shot. But yeah, go ahead.
Right, and Trevor got hit really hard one time, and his whole arm is unusable.
Yeah.
And I really respected the hell out of that, because as much as hard as it was death to actually hit this guy, once Trevor got hit, he took a lot of damage, and it made it built up the stakes. It built up the stakes. It made the battle feel more real, seeing our main character take real damage and go up against real odds. And that's hard to do sometimes, especially animated, I feel like, because they overuse that trope of just because I'm small doesn't mean I can't do damage. No, but you also take a hit, though, too. And they did that really well, and it took Trevor's ingenuity to defeat him. And it felt so rewarding when he did. Like, it came at a high price. It came at a high price. Because it's alluded to that Trevor really did die, but because Saint Germain was still alive with his last breath, actually brought Trevor's soul back with his own. Mm-hmm. It's implied with the show with him having the key still and everything. But man, that battle was phenomenal. Especially when that axe finally came down and he was just like, "This is the end, Trevor." And that whole just like after that monologue bullshit, that final axe is coming down and Trevor just dodges it just barely, with just a couple inches, and then just goes on this firestorm, and then just, oh my gosh, runs behind him on some Naruto Shadow Clone BS, and just like, over here, right behind you, dagger to the head.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Can't even breathe. It's so good. Feeling it in my chest. Death is coming for me. He's sick of me talking shit.
He heard about that ass beat. That's what it was. Yeah.
And I mean, like, I can't be mad. I mean, you can't be mad at that ass whoop, but I mean, like, it was a good fight. That was good.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah. It was. I just like the way that it capped it off, right? And so, so yeah, like he ultimately defeats Death. It's thought that he, died because there's a giant explosion that happens. But like King mentioned, that like Saint Germain and like his dying breath like touches the key or whatever that opens up the infinite corridor and like hurls him into it. Blah blah blah. And he comes back a couple weeks later, like he's hurt badly because he got his ass beat. Because like he said, like I think the fact that like Death only hit him like twice. Like Death only hit him like twice and took like 99% of his health away.
Yeah, which is how it's supposed to be. Right. That's how it's supposed to be. Like,
and but yeah, like dude. But yeah, I liked the scale of it. And yeah, it ends up the series the season wraps with Alucard deciding or agreeing to allow a village to be built at the base of Dracula's castle, or now his castle, called Belmont, the village of Belmont or whatever. And so and it's implied that that he is going to. It's implied that he and the head woman of the village that he rescued are in a relationship. Sypha is pregnant, and they are going to have a kid. And yeah, Isaac is now king of what used to be Camilla's castle. Lenore jumps into the sun and kills herself.
Fuck Lenore.
And Hector is going to do Hector stuff. He's probably going to get tricked again. That's how it wraps up.
Like,
and so that's kind of how it ends. And so that leads me to I feel like kind of like of the last point of like what is next. And like I want to hear your thoughts on this, King, because I feel like it wrapped up perfectly. Like I don't feel like there should be more.
I think that it wrapped up perfectly as well. I mean, with the character arcs between Sypha, Alucard, and Trevor, our main three characters all have phenomenal character arcs, and they all resolve. They gave it one final episode, which I believe was absolutely needed to tie up all the loose ends. And throughout the series, they did that. Like with Camilla's sisters, they decided to go up northwest. Isaac decides to stay in Camilla's castle. And do what he does there. And then all you have left is just our three characters, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And so I believe that it wrapped up very, very, very nicely. I wouldn't want another season. I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
Only thing I really want, if they did like a fun OVA with not really high stakes, like we just see shenanigans, like, they're raising a kid. What's it like with Alucard, Trevor, and Sypha raising a baby, or their kids doing something stupid, they gotta save their kids from some night creatures or something like that. Some fun, cute OVA that's like 30 minutes. That just shows their little banter and some village life. Nothing, everything low stakes. Just, I could do that.
See,
that's the only thing I would allow.
Yeah.
Something that's insignificant to the story. We just get a glimpse of how their lives are years later, but that's it. I don't know if I could do another season because where are you going to go from there? Their character arcs have ended. Alucard went from being an outcast to having friends to being alone and hating the world and hating himself and not finding where he belongs to raising a village and having people call him father. Or children calling him father. You have Sypha that went from this nomad to adventurer to feeling like a failure and forgetting who she was to being an organizer that wants to help people and now a mother. You have Trevor that is doing something meaningful with his life now. Instead of just being a constant drunk, he's actually going to lead people, be a stand-up person in his community. Or at least we so think, but he's changed as well. Not as much as the other two, I don't think. Well, no, I take that back. He has changed quite a bit. With his speech to death, I think he's changed quite a bit. And we see the character development with Hector. Hector going from taking true responsibility or trying to take responsibility for his actions. You have Isaac finding out who he is, finding his own identity, and finding his own path for everything he's done. The vampire sisters, Camilla died, fuck her. Lenore committed suicide instead of being diplomatic and getting her freedom back. That's useless. And then her two sisters kind of just go off somewhere else and live their lesbian relationship. And so there's really not much else you can do. On top of that, and this is a big spoiler, Dracula and Lisa came back to life. Somehow when their souls were put together in the Rebus and it was destroyed and split back apart, they're now alive as well. And they have a really happy ending as they're both alive again and together, and they can live out their lives. They don't have to, and no one knows they're alive, so they can just be whoever they want to be. So really, with everything, how it's so nicely wrapped up, I don't want them to ruin that, honestly. And I don't know how they could really top it either.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that's the major thing is, like, there's nothing that you can... He fucking killed death. Like,
right, he killed death. So, I mean, like how are you going to top that? You killed Dracula.
Right. I wouldn't even want to see like a story that is focused on like the main three. Like if there was something like I could see if there was like a small thing where it was like Morana is the name of the brown vampire lady and the big vampire lady. I could see something like with them. I could see something maybe with like Hector. I could see something I like introduce us to like their kid, like the main three's kids, like grown up. Like that would be something that I would like to see. That's not focused on that main three, right? Like that's
right. Their stories are tied up. They're done. We don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
And if they do that, don't make them clones of their parents.
Yeah.
Don't do that like they did with Boruto. I mean, for the most part, like. I'm not getting into that. That's a different story for a different time. But if they were to do it, and I hope they don't. I hope they use this to create more stories that can be done just as well or better with the experience they had doing a video game adaptation.
Yeah.
You know, Metroid, I think we both can agree would be a good one if they want to do something similar to that.
Yeah.
Something that's not too campy, something that they can really sink their teeth into.
Yeah.
You know, when I see stuff like this, I think of Stranger Things, where, because I was a fan of seasons 1 and 2, and I wish it stopped there, and they followed a different character besides Eleven in the gang.
Yeah.
Because what made the story great was the mystery, the overall mystery. Once that stopped, it started being a shell of its own form.
And once they started focusing on like all the drama and all that stuff, I'm like, Rev, I get it.
It stopped being about what it was, and it was the overall mystery. And this show is one of the. I'm afraid people fall into that same thing that Stranger Things did, where we want to see the same characters. Like, no, we want to see good stories.
Yeah.
And we want to see their character arcs come to an end.
Yeah.
Once that's done, every now and then, if you want to tease us with something, you know, some people appreciate the fan service if done right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if done correctly. But you don't have to make a new series recycling the same old things.
Right.
Do something new.
Precisely.
And I hope these directors and story writers, Sam Dietz and Warren Ellis, I hope they have the courage to try new things, to go to different stories, look at different video games they could adapt into something that's just as dark, funny, and engaging as they did with this. Yeah. And anything they try it next, I will at least give it a shot.
And I'll say
I know
that like and I hope that studio that companies that these networks and these streaming services will give them what they need to do that. I mean, Netflix, they throw a lot of money at really stupid stuff, and some of it is like, especially in the animation department, like there's a lot of stuff that is like that is a Netflix animated show that is pretty trash. There's a lot of really bad Netflix anime out there.
God Eater, for example, don't watch that. It sucks.
Yeah,
hate it. It's everything wrong with shonen anime. Everything wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like we'll have a show where we just kind of talk about different.
We just shit on terrible Netflix adaptations.
I'm gonna be like 100% honest right now. Like, I don't watch anime. I could just end the sentence there, but like I don't watch anime like I used to. Like I watch Attack on Titan. I watch One Punch Man. And then I go back to watch like anime that I used to love. So like I just finished up Cowboy Bebop again. So like if that gives you any indication of like what my like anime radar is. But yeah, like I don't watch anime that much, but like I've sat down and like trying to watch like certain shows, and I was like, bruh, I can't do this. Like this is absolute garbage.
We sound like one of those old heads. You know, this ain't anime. Real anime. It's back in my day.
It's not even that this ain't anime. Like this stuff is anime, right? Like that's the thing. Like that, it is anime. The problem is that like I just don't have the patience to like sit down and just like watch mediocre shit. Like Attack on Titan is
fantastic,
phenomenal. We'll talk about that some other time, but bruv, Attack on Titan is the shit. So it's not even that. It's not that like I don't like anime. It's not that I don't. I'm not into it. I still want to watch One Piece. The thing is, there's just too much episodes for me to like watch something that I don't know when it's going to be over. Like that's the thing. Like I'm
never be over.
I'm waiting for Oda to just be like, yeah, okay, this is the last arc or whatever. Like when he gets.
I thought Wano was supposed to be the last arc.
No, Wano is like he was like, I think it'll be done in the next couple of years. I'm like, oh, okay, okay, all right. And watch, he's gonna come back in like 5 years and be like, in the next couple of years.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, I hope that
when did One Piece start? 1999.
I think
it's been 21 years now.
Yeah. I think it was 99.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
20 years.
But yeah, just last thing is just on Castlevania. It's just I agree wholeheartedly. Like I hope that they're able to. I just hope that they're able to create new things, and I hope that they're not in this that people aren't expecting them to make another Castlevania. I want to see them do something different. I want to see them do different things, and I hope that the next thing that they do is not just they're just not copy and pasting characters, because that's what I don't want. Like you said, I would be down for if they're doing a video game adaptation, they've already proven that they can. So if they're doing a video game adaptation, I agree. A Metroid series, I would love to see a more mature, gritty Metroid series. One, because that's what a lot of a lot of the more recent Metroid series have been a little bit they've been on the darker side and more mature side, and so I would be down to see see Samus frontlining a good animated series. That could be pretty dope. But who knows, man? I just hope that whatever they do,
they do it well.
Yeah, that's the big thing. With that being said, this last season of Castlevania, honestly, it's hard. I still had some things with it, but honestly, I would give it a 5 out of 5. Honestly,
I give it a 5 out of 5 as well. I think though it has its shortcomings as a whole. I think it's something everyone should watch. Highly recommend it to those that are more mature. Season 3 might have been a little bit low, but they definitely make up for it in Season 4.
Yeah, it comes together in Season 4. So, the show as a whole, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. Yeah, the show as a whole, I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
4.5. I really liked the show, guys. It was amazing.
Yeah,
honestly, it was amazing.
I'm tempted to go back and watch, especially those first 2 seasons, because, like I said, it came out in 2017. So, I'm tempted to go back and watch those first 2 seasons at the very least, because the 3rd season is more recent. And so,
and they recapped it in 2 minutes, which tells you how much content there was.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful.
But, yeah. Well, I think that's going to be pretty much it.
Yeah, this was a little longer one, but we appreciate you guys sticking along because we covered a lot of stuff today. The show was amazing. You should go watch it now.
100%.
Stop what you're doing. I don't care. Go see it. Tell us how you like it. Comment below your favorite character, your favorite fight, what you took away philosophically, because some of y'all are going to be kind of questioning your life choices after watching some of this stuff.
Perhaps.
Not going to lie. Isaac asked some tough questions. Not going to lie.
But I'm feeling it, though. But that's it. That's it for this week. We just want to, we because of the finality of this season of Castlevania, we just wanted to focus on Castlevania today in this episode. So yeah, we may have we'll probably have more topics and we'll have more topics in future episodes and things like that. But yeah, we just want to focus in on that today. So let us know your thoughts. Follow us on Facebook. We're Sly Studios and Sly Guys, Facebook, Twitter. Also check out our YouTube channel. We are streaming. I think we finally have the okay to start streaming on YouTube, but we have been we've been streaming on Facebook for the past couple weeks. Every Thursday from 5:30 to 7, there will be a live stream, but we'll have a couple of other random ones popping up on Facebook too. So with that being said, I am Lord Third, your number one trash player, aka the Garbage Goat, aka Jackie's Bay, and
I am the Ranger, better than a stranger, the King of Dreams, much better when he's got all 10 rings.
Indeed.
And we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest spot takes on all things nerdy and culture, and we are out.
Peace and love, y'all.
Peace.